Hello everyone, today I'm working on a 2002 Hyundai Santa Fe. It has the 2.4 liter dual overhead cam, and I will be replacing the crankshaft sensor. On the packaging here it calls it the crankshaft angle sensor, and I also have the part number available here. I will be posting that information in the description of this video. The first two things you'll want to do is remove the passenger side tire and this top plenum. I highly suggest using a good jack and then supporting the vehicle in the front with two jack stands. This will keep you very safe. The lug nut size, you can either use a 13/16 or I believe that converts to a 21 millimeter. So first you'll remove this tire, and then you'll remove this plenum here. It has 4 10 millimeter bolts, and then this plenum just lifts straight up. So once you're started, you will want to disconnect the battery, and once the top plenum is off, you will also want to disconnect this. This is the harness for the crank sensor. Alright, so now the vehicle is jacked up and supported with jack stands, and the passenger side tire is removed along with this plenum up top here. Now you will want to come down here to the passenger side. Let's see if I can light that up. There we go. This cover right here, you'll want to take this off. There are 4 10 millimeter bolts. There's one over here where I'm pointing, one here, one over here, and then one directly along the lip of it over here. Once you have this side panel off, you will then want to work toward removing the power steering belt. The power steering belt is the belt on the outside here. You also have the alternator belt, which is on the inside of this crank pulley. So how you will remove this belt is by first you'll come up here, and this is a 14 millimeter. You'll loosen this. It is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Loosen that nut there, and then you will want to come up here. This one's still easily accessible, but get you a good view there. This bolt right here. You will then want to loosen this one, and it will relieve the tension in the belt, and then you will be able to remove it. So a quick note before removing the alternator belt is there are 4 bolts on this pulley here. They are all 10 millimeter. That goes to the water pump. So before loosening the alternator belt, you will want to break all 4 of those bolts loose. Once the power steering belt is off, now it is time to remove the alternator belt. There are 3 bolts that you have to loosen in order to do this. The first bolt is right here. Let's see if I can reach around to that. Right here, that is a 14 millimeter. So go ahead and loosen this one. And then you'll come to the top side. Looking straight down on the alternator, there's a bolt right here. I'm pointing directly at it. That is a 12 millimeter bolt. You may now loosen that bolt, and then on the very back side here, let me see if I can, right here, right where this finger's touching, there's also another 12 millimeter bolt there, and you will want to loosen that in order to relieve the tension in the belt. Once you loosen it enough, you can pull up on the bolt, and then it ends up being right here. So, and then it can just sit there, and then you can relieve all the tension in the alternator belt. And then here, these are 12 millimeter bolts, these 4 bolts. So you will now remove all 4 of these bolts. There, and then I supported the bottom of the motor and jacked it up just enough to where I could get the water pump pulley off. That is the only way this shroud right here will come out, and then you pull it toward you, so the whole shroud will come toward you, and then you can slide it straight down. So removing this guard was a little tricky. You just have to wiggle it out of there. Same goes for the bottom here. You have to wiggle it, and you know, besides being careful for the belt, you just have to sort of force it out of there. You'll want to remove the 2 power steering bolts, which are located right here and down below. Those are both 14mm, or you may use a 9/16. After loosening the side bolts for the power steering pump from the wheel well, you will want to come to the front side of the car and loosen this bolt here as much as possible, and then this bottom bolt, there's another one exactly like it right here, I already pulled out. But what you'll have to do is you'll have to loosen this and pull the power steering pump with you as you are loosening it, because it'll just end up backing itself out on the pump itself. So just keep loosening it and it'll keep coming out all the way. Loosening all of the power steering bolts as much as possible, I am now able to move it out of the way, and you can see here, this is the wire for the crank sensor that runs up, and then it goes under this plenum, which I still haven't taken off. I've loosened everything, and then it runs this way and runs all the way over here. Once you have finally made it to the sensor, you may take off these 2 bolts here. They're both 10mm. And then be very careful not to put any pressure on your timing belt or to get any liquids and stuff on it. You do not want to cause it to go out. In my case, the timing belt has been done about 30,000 miles ago, so shame on me for not doing the crank sensor while doing the timing belt. So when removing the wires for it, there are, let me show you the one on the brand new one. Excuse me. There are these clips here. The wire is actually clipped in to where the power steering pump mounts. These 2 clips go in. So you'll have to reach your hand down and pinch these and then pull the wire out. I can show you. I removed one of them right there. And there's some holes right here on the back of this, and you won't be able to remove this wire unless you remove the actual power steering pump housing. So hopefully that lightens it up there. Yep, there you go. So there's the clip, and then you can't see the hole because of the angle, and it's really dark down there, but there's a hole here and there's a hole down a few inches lower than that. Bolts, you'll want to come up here and remove this bolt here and this bolt right here. Those are also 10mm. I also disconnected the PCV valve, and I may move this vacuum line here and take off this bracket here. Those are 2 10mm bolts. This covers the fuel injectors and is also guarding that electrical cable there. So it is in a wire loom in there, and so when you lift it up, you'll be able to trace the wire easily. It's just a matter of getting this piece out. It is plastic, so be careful pulling it out. You don't want to break it. All right, so I now have the crankshaft sensor removed. I have come to the conclusion that you cannot remove this without actually removing the timing belt. So what I have opted to do is, from the sensor mounted nearest to the crankshaft, I followed the loom up. You are able to pull this out behind the belt, so you'll just have to fish these clips back through behind the belt, which shouldn't be an issue. Just be careful. But what I have opted to do is I am going to take this wire here and I'm gonna follow it all the way until this this high-end protectant loom ends, and then probably about 6 inches after that I'm going to cut it. I cut the old sensor wire out so I could pull it out easily, and then on the new one, to install it without removing the timing belt, which will save me tons of time, and I'm confident that it will not make a difference. I'm going to follow that loom underneath this the protective conduit here, and I'm going to cut it, and then I will use proper electrical connections and heat shrink on them to seal it up properly. But I do believe that that is a good alternative to doing it yourself if you do not want to remove the timing belt. Again, the timing belt on this was done less than 30,000 miles ago, so if you're due for a timing belt, this is a perfect opportunity to just replace this crankshaft sensor. So as I was pulling off the wire loom to inspect my old crankshaft sensor, I was seeing if there's any known symptoms, or but I found this here. So I have 2 wires that have created enough friction to go directly through them. Now the loom itself was not damaged. This here is actually right where one of these plastic clips were. So I think the vibration of the clip maybe just eventually rubbed through enough to cause it to expose the wire. I'm trying to find it here again. But yeah, so I believe that is the culprit. So I am excited that I actually found something wrong with the wire, opposed to just banking on the sensor being bad. So here are the tools you'll need to repair the wire if you're not planning to remove the timing belt. I ended up taking the brand new wire and cut it about 2.5 feet up. It was just a random cut. I just decided I'd rather do the wire connections on top of the motor rather than trying to mess around down below. So this should be plenty to be up top, and I will put new wire loom on it after I put my connectors on. So I have 3 connectors here, and then I have my heat shrink, and then I have a lighter to put it on there. I also have tape to secure the wire loom back on, and I have additional wire loom. This is looks like 3/8 wire loom. So I hope this helps. I will let you know how it goes once the repair is done. But before I plan to do the repair, I'm going to put a piece of tape on the end of this. I will actually remove this wire loom off of here, just so the wire can be ran easier behind the timing belt. So to give you an idea of space, there's probably less than a 1/2 inch, so it's probably about that much that you have. You have just enough to wiggle these clips through the back side of the timing belt and get them into place to where they will not touch the timing belt. The reason I cut it is because there's absolutely no way I can fish this between the engine block and the timing belt, nor would I be able to fish something this large. So the alternative for me was to cut it, which I think will be much easier and will save me tons of time. So if I did not do the timing belt within the last 30,000 miles, then I would have just removed the timing belt. I now have the sensor installed, and the wire is, see, ran up right underneath that bolt, and then there's a gap that I pushed it into. There's not much clearance between that and the belt, but that's how it was before. Once you put the clips on, those 2 white clips, it will give you the distance that you need for the wire, so you won't have to guess on how much play you need in the wire or whatnot. With the sensor installed, now I will start reinstalling the timing belt cover. I'm going to start with the lower shield, and then I will install the upper shield. Again, there are 11 10mm bolts. Try to make sure you put all 11 of the bolts back. Now that the timing belt cover is installed, it is time to install the harmonic balancer, also known as the crank pulley, and the water pump pulley. So the torque specifications on the water pump pulley, which is here, is 74 inch-pounds up to 82 inch-pounds, and the torque specifications for the harmonic balancer is 20 foot-pounds. So I found that installing the water pump pulley is easier done without the power steering pump in the way. You are able to just slide the pulley right down through here with the bottom of the engine still raised, and then you can also access the bolts for the pulley right here very easily, and then you can just rotate it as you tighten all them down finger tight. Don't bother trying to tighten them until the belt is on. That way you have some resistance to torque them down. Now that the crank pulley is torqued down and the water pump pulley is in place, come over to the power steering pump, and the easiest way to do this will be to start with the lower bolt on the power steering pump on the front side of the engine block. Get that one started, and then try to get the upper one started here. You will have to get both of these almost all the way in before you can start doing the ones on the side of the block. That way the holes are closer to being lined up, and then it will be easier as well. Make sure before you start to put the power steering pump on that you have the lower power steering bolt in place. Let's see if I could get a view of that. You can see it right there sticking out straight ahead there. My finger's pointing straight at it. That bolt right there must be in place, or you will not be able to get that bolt in the hole. It does have some play, so you could just make sure it's in the hole of the bracket before starting to install the power steering pump. Now that the power steering bolts are started on the front side of the engine block, you may lower the motor, this side mount. Make sure that the post here lines up with the bolt that's sticking up, and lower it slowly to where you can guide it onto it. Once that is done, go ahead and put your bolt on there and tighten that down. And now we can start with the power steering and the alternator belt. I recommend installing the alternator belt first, or you will be taking the power steering belt off again. So alternator belt, again, 9/16 there, and there's a tensioner on the top side that is a 12mm, and then once you have enough tension in the belt, then you tighten both the bolts down. Once the alternator belt is installed, you can install the power steering belt, and then you'll want to tighten this bolt until the belt is pretty tight. And once this bolt is tightened, then you can go down to the bottom side, and from down here you'll be able to feel the difference in slack for the power steering belt. But then you will want to tighten this bolt right here. Once the belts are all tightened up and the tension is good, go ahead and come up top to our electrical connection. Here you have it. I have reconnected all of the wires using insulated butt connectors and heat shrink. Make sure that you put the heat shrink on each individual wire before actually crimping the butt connectors. Now I will be putting wire loom on this wire to protect it, and then I will be routing it back over the top here and through the back. I'm going to add a couple zip ties because it was not secured before. It was sort of just dangling there. So here you have it. I have the wire loom and the wire routed, and then I zip tied it to the main wires going to the injectors and have it running all the way up here. Now I will install this plastic cover and put the 2 bolts back in and install the plastic cover over the spark plugs and the coil. Alright everyone, I have everything buttoned up, wheel is on and torqued down, and all the electrical connections are double checked. So here I go. I'm gonna try to start it now. Hopefully it fires right up. It has not been fired up for about 3 days, so it will have to cool down or warm up. Turn the air conditioning off. Buckle up here, drive it up the street, see how it does. I live on a private street, so although I'm breaking the law, I'm not being too unsafe. So I will let you guys know how it goes. And yeah, I'm super excited. It feels good already. And I will be posting a couple videos on to help people with similar problems. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe for future videos.